Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Grantha Raja Ki Jai. Srimad and all glories to the assembled devotees. Hari Bol. So tonight we're going to hear from the 6 types of surrender to the Lord. Without surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we'll never be able to make any spiritual advancement. Now, the word surrender scares people. They think, oh my God, I'll be a slave the rest of my life. But actually, it's the opposite. By surrendering, see, if you do surrender to let's say, a mundane person, yeah, you'll be a slave the rest of your life. But if you surrender to Krishna, you'll be liberated for the rest of your life. There's a major difference between surrendering to Krishna and surrendering to nasty people or lusty people, people that want to take advantage of your service. Krishna doesn't take advantage of your service. Krishna supports you in your service to him, and he guarantees to protect his devotee who's engaged in devotional service, and he gives you knowledge also. So Krishna promises protection, knowledge, and all types of happiness and achievement of spiritual desires. There's a difference between spiritual desires and material desires. So when you engage in Krishna consciousness sincerely, then your spiritual desires will all be achieved. Krishna will see to that. But if you only have material desires for sense gratification, then you can only get what is given to you by your karma, your previous karma. So it's limited. And your previous karma is going to be a mixed bag of good things that you did and bad things that you did. So you'll have some happiness and you'll have some misery. But if you surrender to Krishna, then always engage in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then you'll never be overwhelmed by, let's say, fear, anxiety, and you'll always be happy because the Lord will reciprocate with you, and he promises, Krishna promises that he will protect you. So that's the best, let's say, promise. No one else can make such a promise that you will always be protected by the mercy of Krishna, and you'll always be happy, and you'll always be engaged in devotional service. Then you have a genuine spiritual life, even in the material world. And that's important. That is the special mercy of Krishna. Knowing well that this is the worst time to be born in the material world. This is the Kali Yuga, the 4th, let's say, time in the universe where hardly 25% of the population is interested a little bit in God. And that number is even going down. In Satya Yuga, everyone was interested in God. And in Dwapara Yuga, 75%. In Treta Yuga, 50%. And in Kali Yuga, it's 25%, but that number is going down. So not so many people are really interested in understanding their relationship with Krishna. There are people that are religious. They go to church every Sunday, but they don't have full knowledge of how to surrender to God. For example, God, or Krishna, is a cowherd boy. He takes cows out every day and to pasture, and he stays with them all day, and then he brings them back in the evening. And he protects cows, he loves cows, he cuddles cows. Krishna is always with cows. So, if you're a spiritual person, but you're still eating steaks and beef and this and that, so you're not really a genuine devotee, because Krishna, or God, is the protector of cows. So therefore, in other religions like Christianity, Islam, and other religions, they don't have the full knowledge of how to please God. You cannot please God by killing cows. Let's put it like that. It's impossible, because Krishna himself protects cows, and he's endeared to cows. So some people say, oh, no, let's not talk about cows. Let's just talk about God. Okay, but let's talk about God. Krishna is a cowherd boy. If you look at the history of Krishna, he spends all his time with cows, and he protects them, and he loves them, and he hugs them, and he makes sure that they're well fed every day, and he spends the whole day with them. So obviously there's something special about a cow. If the Lord Krishna is always protecting cows, then if you protect cows, now you're coming closer and closer to Krishna. We should understand it. That's why we have farms. We have 3 farms in Washington State, and one in Redmond, one in the Everson on the Canadian border, and one in, I forget the name anyway. Arlington, right. So we love cows also. We're just following Krishna's example. And you can come and associate with our cows. You don't have to drive very far away. You just go to our Redmond farm, and we have beautiful cows there. We have Gujarati Gir cows, a whole herd of them. They're very beautiful cows. Have you seen those cows? Yeah. Are they nice looking? They're fantastically beautiful. And we also have zebu cows, miniature cows, and we have goats. And so, but our milking cows, they're called it's a different breed, and they're in our farm in Everson on the Canadian border, and they are it's a different breed of a cow, but they give the same milk as Indian cows, and it's fantastic milk. If you never tasted our milk, you should definitely get it. So you can get it tonight if you want. Is Dhananjaya here tonight? Oh, he went to Seattle. Okay. Oh, so he'll be back later on, yeah. Yeah, so the person that takes care of the sales of milk is called Dhananjaya. He'll be back here around 9 o'clock. And you can get a gallon of ahimsa milk. Ahimsa milk means we'll never kill the cow, nor will we kill the bull. We'll protect them. And we have a cow sanctuary in Arlington. We have different farms. We have one farm here in Redmond. We have another farm in Arlington. And we have another farm in Everson. So our cow sanctuary for cows that are not being milked, and for cows that are old, and for the bulls, we have a cow sanctuary where they can live very peacefully and die naturally. We never kill cows. It's not like, the cow industry. They'll milk the cows for 6-7 years, and then they kill them and sell them for meat. That is extremely, extremely sinful. And that's why there's so much suffering going on in the world today, because people They say, dog is my friend and cow is my food. No, it should be the opposite way. Cow is my friend and dog is my food. See, then they would be freed from a lot of very heavy karma. I mean, it's even bad to kill a dog, but not as bad as killing a cow. In fact, if you kill a cow or eat a cow, you'll take as many births as there are hairs on the body of the cow and be slaughtered. That's how sacred the cow is. So that's one of the worst things you could ever do is to eat a cow. Well, you don't actually see it as a cow. You see it as a sirloin steak, or you see it as a rib steak, or something like that. But it's all coming from the cow. That hamburger and so forth, it's all coming from a cow. So if you come here, you can learn these things and save yourself a lot of trouble, a lot of bad karma. And because Krishna himself protects cows, so you can just see how dear they are to Krishna. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about the 6 principles of surrendering to God. Now, when you hear the word surrender, people get scared. Oh, surrender? Oh, I'll be a slave. No, not when you surrender to Krishna. You'll be liberated when you surrender to Krishna. But if you surrender to a bad person, like Ravana, yeah, you'll be a slave and you'll be exploited. But if you surrender to Krishna, you'll be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So there are 6 principles of surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, rakshishya ititi vishvaso, gupchitre varanam tata, atma nikshepa karpanye, sadvida saranagati. And it says, 1, anukulyasya sankalpa, to desire only in accordance with the desire of God. So these are 6 ways of attaining surrender to the Lord. Number 2, pratikulyasya varjanam, reject what is not in favor of devotion. Number 3, rakshishya ititi vishvaso, the faith in God will surely protect me. Number 4, goptritve varanam tata, to maintain an attitude of gratitude toward God. Atman nikshepa, to see everything we possess as belonging to God. And karpanye, to give up the pride of having surrendered. These are 6 steps of how to surrender to God. Now, if you surrender to a demon, yeah, you'll be exploited, you'll be miserable. It's not a nice situation to be in. But when you surrender to Krishna, you get liberated from the cycle of birth and death, and all these good things happen. Because you come closer to God by surrendering to Him and engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. What does it mean in devotional service? Well, it means several things. The first thing is you give up all sinful activities. What are those sinful activities? Meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. And, of course, there's also cheating, lying, and so forth. But the first 4 are the big tickets of sinful activity. And then you take up 6 principles of surrender. So one is to desire only to satisfy Krishna's desires. In other words, Krishna is a being. He's not an it. He's actually a person. So he also has desires. His desires is that everyone become lovers of Krishna and go back to the spiritual world. So Krishna is in the spiritual world. We were all also originally in the spiritual world, but due to limited free will, we misused that free will and decided to leave Krishna, voluntarily leave Krishna, and come to the material world and try to become a little Krishna. In other words, try to be a controller of material nature. That is impossible, but you can imagine that you can control things, just like someone like Elon Musk. He's a controller, but everyone is a controller in the material world. They control something, right? But if you're a devotee, you understand everything belongs to Krishna, so you don't try and be the controller. That doesn't mean you live in a cardboard box and have nothing. No. But whatever you have, you use in the service of Krishna. Now, you have, you could be very wealthy or you could be very poor, but both ways, whatever you have, you engage in the service of Krishna. And if you don't know how to engage in the service of Krishna, that's why you come to the temple, and we teach you how to do it. So the easiest way is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You see that little boy, he's chanting very enthusiastically because his mother brings him all the time to the temple. So if you have children, you should bring them to the temple regularly, and you'll have a son like that, you know, and he's always chanting Hare Krishna. Are you always chanting Hare Krishna? Yes? Yes. Okay. Because his mother is always bringing him to the temple. It's better than bringing him to the movies or to the playground or to, all these different nonsense things that people take their children to, see a Disney film. Disney films are the worst films in the world. Now, why would I say that? Because those Disney films are recommended for children. They're recommended. In other words, they're not like the nasty films that you see. They have so-called good, let's say, entertainment worthy of children, but actually it's not true. They have subtle, let's say, things in the Disney films that condition children to be sense gratifiers. Now, you don't know that, but I do know that because I've studied what those things are in Disney films. So, like, for example, in Disney films, you have people who, let's say there's Donald Duck or some other character. They have a person that and his voice is dubbed into the cartoon. But suddenly they ask people who have a certain type of voice to speak, and then when children hear that voice, like in the coming from Donald Duck or any of the other Disney characters, they like it. And if they hear a person, not in a movie now, they hear a person that has that type of voice, they're attracted to them. So oftentimes, the people that are voicing professionally for Disney, they have an agenda. They have a voice that is someone like a homosexual. So all of this is planned. Of course, you don't know that. If I didn't tell you that now, you wouldn't know that. But I'm telling you, and this is true. That's why Disney films are not really good. They're actually trying to control the minds of children and get them ready to be, let's say, friendly to types of persons that you yourself would never associate with. But they hear those type of voices, right? And then when they see a person with that type of voice, they're attracted to that type of person because it's like the movies they're seeing, the Disney movies. But all that is planned to corrupt the minds of young kids. So Disney films are not really good. Well, they look good, they sound good, but they're not really good for your children. If you want the children to see something good, well, you bring them to see movies about Krishna. Well, now the movies about Krishna are usually very good. So therefore, you have to understand the United States is a very dangerous place because there's a lot of corruption in this country. And people who are, doing the corruption is trying to corrupt the minds of people. And not only children, even adults and students and so forth. So if you become a victim of that type of, let's say, training, then you don't realize it. It's subtle. And eventually you become attracted to things that are actually self-destructive. Like, for example, cigarette smoking is self-destructive, right? Now, they don't let the cigarette companies do any propaganda on television anymore, on television or the movies, right? But you'll still see, people smoking, right? And every pack of cigarette, it does say if you smoke, you will get cancer or you'll die, right? But people still smoke. They didn't stop smoking. Maybe they diminished the number of people who are smoking, but it's still going on. So why would that happen? Well, because people think that it's something cool to smoke, right? And more, and if you go to more adults, you'll see like a lot of men smoke cigars or pipes, right? Even though they know that it's not good for their health, but still they do it. Why? Because it sort of helps their identity, the type of identity that they want. So someone who smokes a cigar, well, they look like a rich man. And someone who smokes a pipe, it looks like, well, he's a professor, right? And someone who smokes cigarettes, well, he's an idiot, of course, but they get some kind of pleasure from it. But actually, our body is not made for cigarettes or pipes or cigars. Our lungs are made for oxygen, right? So if you put smoke into your lungs, that's self-destructive. And people still get addicted to smoking, and they think, they can't really live without it. So it's good to come to the temple because we talk about things like this. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and no speculation. Speculation means that someone asks you a question, you don't know what the answer is, you make it up, you see. So that's speculation. You try and answer a question without even knowing what it is. So you just make something up and speak. So in the material world is full of false things, such as, for a long time, Colin Powell was trying to convince the American public that there were weapons of mass destruction in, what was the name of that guy? Yes, right. And after, they invaded Saddam Hussein's country, and killed a lot of people. Then we found out that there were no weapons of mass destruction. The whole thing was a lie, you see. And there's a famous British man who says that the first thing that happens when there's war is, the first casualty of war is the truth. Yeah, well, the example of what they did with Saddam Hussein, he didn't make war with the United States. By the way, the United States, when they invaded Saddam, they did something that never did before. The United States never invaded or went to war with someone unless they were first attacked. It's the first time in the history of the United States that the United States started the war, you see. So, and how did they start the war? They lied to the people. They said that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction, and he didn't. See? So, you see, that's why some famous British philosophers said that the first casualty of war is the truth. Yeah, so if we come regularly to the temple and listen to Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll understand what is the truth. The truth is that we all have come from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we're all meant to go back to Krishna. Now, why did we come to the material world? It's because we have limited free will. Limited to two choices. Either I surrender to Krishna or I don't surrender to Krishna. Now, if you don't surrender to Krishna, then you come to the material world and you try and satisfy your fantasies of trying to be happy by sense gratification. And when you get completely frustrated in doing that, then you start asking questions. Why am I suffering? How can I get out of this suffering? And then if you're lucky, you'll come in contact with devotees and you'll get the answers and you'll stop unnecessarily suffering. But we all, if we're here in the material world with the material body, it means that we voluntarily walked away from Krishna, being attracted by something in the material world. So that type of attraction is going on all the time. So whatever happened originally keeps happening over and over again. So someone gets attracted by a woman that's dressed in a particular way. I had a friend of mine, he married a woman, and she was always cheating on him. That means that she was going out with other men. And I asked him, I said, why did you marry that lady, that horrible lady? He said, oh, well, the first time I saw her, she was sitting on a chair smoking a cigarette, but the cigarette was on the side of her mouth, and the smoke was going into her eye, and she was like tearing from her eye, and it made me remember my grandmom, who used to smoke like that. And this is why he married her. And she turned out to be a demon. She was having all kinds of illicit activity with other people, and he was suffering. So, yeah. We should not be easily, let's say, cheated by illusory things. So, illusory things are promises of sense gratification. Like there was one man that he saw these advertisements to go to hell. And there were these big billboards that said, go to hell and be happy. And it looked like, Hawaii. And, he said, well, and by the way, it was very, very cheap, to go there. So he was thinking, well, look, it looks like Hawaii. He says can't be that bad, right? So he bought a ticket and he took the elevator down to hell. And as soon as he got out of the elevator, two demons came and started beating him up. And he said, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Why are you doing this to me? And I thought this is a nice place. And I said, that was the publicity. This is the reality. So oftentimes we become duped or cheated like that. We look at the publicity and we think, oh, this is good. I have to get this thing, But it turns out to be a hoax, and it's the opposite of what we thought. Just like there was this one lady that came, and she was complaining to me, and she said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, okay. What's the matter?" She said, "When I married my husband, I thought he was Rama. But after 6 months of marriage, I realized he's Ravana." So that's a big mistake, right? I mean, there's two major mistakes you can make in life. Number one, marry the wrong person, right? And number two, take initiation from the wrong person. Two big mistakes. So if you take initiation from a person who's not really a devotee, then you're going to ruin your life. And if you marry someone who's not really a good person, it's going to be miserable, right? So how to learn to recognize good people? If they come to the temple regularly and chant Hare Krishna and do seva, work in the kitchen a little bit or clean up or go out on Sankirtan, then they're a good person. Bad people are not going to do that. They're not interested in doing that. And but these are good people, or people who do these type of things regularly. In other words, it's part of their life. It's coming to the temple, bowing down to the deities, hearing lectures, cleaning the temple, working in the kitchen, going on Sankirtan. It's part of their life. And because of that, you can recognize them as a devotee, and always associating with devotees, never associating with materialistic people. That's how you recognize a devotee. Even Lord Chaitanya said, the way to recognize a devotee is that the devotee never associates with materialistic people. Because if you associate with materialistic people, they're going to do things that are sinful, but they make it look like it's normal, right? Like they'll sit down. One time this very wealthy man invited me to have lunch. And so I sat down with him, and then, the waiter came and he gave us the menu, and I looked at it, and there was nothing in the menu that I could eat, right? So when the waiter came back and asked the man who invited him, he said, "What do you want?" And he went through a whole list of things. I want to start with white wine, he said. And then he wanted his hors d'oeuvres, some kind of meat or something horrible, right? And then his main dish was, sirloin steak and this and that. And then the man looked at me and said, "What do you want?" And he had given me a menu also. I said, I looked at your menu. I said, "The only thing you have in your menu that I can eat is bread." And he looked at me and says, Are you kidding me?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm a vegetarian. You don't have anything that I can eat. And even the bread, I'm not even sure I should eat that, So I said, "Just bring me some water." So the man I was with, he said, "Are you sick?" I said, "No, I'm not sick. I'm a vegetarian." He said, "Oh, you're a vegetarian." I said, "Before the war, I was a vegetarian also. But I saw so many bad things during the war that I started eating meat." I said, "What, the war took place 25 years ago?" He said, "Yeah, 25 years I've been eating meat." So these are silly people. They're not real people. They're just silly. They're just whimsical. But we shouldn't be whimsical. We should follow the principles of Krishna consciousness seriously. That will be our ticket back to Godhead. Everybody else will be going to hell, and we'll be going to the spiritual world. Now, hell, the definition of hell by the Christians is actually wrong. They say if you go to hell, that's it. You can't come out. You're done for life, forever. That's not true. If that was true, that means God would be a nasty person. But God is not a nasty person. Even if you go to hell, you can still repent and go back to the spiritual world. So here we have the Christians. They're supposed to be very spiritual people, and they're teaching things that are false. But not in Krishna consciousness. And God is not a nasty person. God is a merciful person and very kind. So if you commit sinful activities and you have to go to hell, you're not going to stay there forever. You can repent even in hell and come back to spiritual world, come back to this world, have another chance to do the right things, and then go back to the spiritual world. So unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation, and people, sometimes, you have really intelligent people, and they hear lectures and by preachers and things, and they say, I don't like this, there's something wrong. Well, of course it's wrong. If the teacher is telling you go to hell, that's it, you're finished, you'll never be able to get out. That means that God is a mean person. But it's not true. You can be saved even if you go to hell. So, because Krishna is merciful, he's not mean. So hell is not a nice place, of course, but you're not, what you say, damned to go to hell forever. You can always be saved by the mercy of a devotee. So devotees will go to hell sometimes to help people get out of that terrible place and come back and get a new chance to go to the spiritual world. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. Does anybody have any questions about some things I said or some things I didn't say? Or any question that you have about Krishna consciousness? Here's your chance to ask the question. And there has to be at least one question, because you never learn anything unless you ask a question. If you always stay quiet, you won't learn anything. You ask a question, you learn something. So are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Yes, Mataji, yes. Yes.
Jesus Christ is he's a bona fide person, and his teaching, how is it different for hell than our Sanatana Dharma's preaching? Like the scripture says. Because
Well, I don't think Jesus Christ said that if you go to hell, you stay there forever. It's the modern priests that are saying that.
It's not written in Bible.
Okay, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Wait a minute. It is part of Christian philosophy. You can look it up right now. Do the Christians say that when you go to hell, there's no way that you can come back?
So if you go to hell, it is for eternal.
That's what they say. It's not true. We know that even if you go to hell, you can still be saved by the mercy of devotees. Right? If that was true, that means that God is mean, is nasty. But God is not nasty. Okay? If you go to hell, it's to stop being a nonsense person and being trained to be a good person. It's just like you go to jail. You go to jail, well, they're hoping that you'll learn your lesson and they'll free you and hope that you won't commit any more crimes. See? So going to jail is a remedial way of teaching people not to make mistakes like stealing or lying or whatever. Right? What does it say?
According to the Christian belief, if you go to hell, you will never come back.
That say? Read it out loud. 1 second. It's going to bring.
According to Christian belief, if you go to hell, you will never come back. The Bible describes hell as a place of eternal punishment and separation from God. Meaning, once you are there is no escape or return.
You see, this is nonsense. This is what Christians are teaching, and it's not true. You see. And why do they lie like that? That's a lie. That's not true at all. They want to scare you so that you will, become a Christian, right? But you can't scare people and expect them to never find out that it's a lie. But that's what they're teaching. That's part of their teaching. You go to hell, you can never come back. That's not what we teach. That's not what Krishna teaches. Even if you go to hell, you can always be liberated by the mercy of a devotee. You see. I think so, yes. Look it up. I'm pretty sure they do, yeah. Yeah, you see, Christianity, Islam, it's all the same religion, right? It's all Abrahamic religion.
So by scaring people, it will like make you feel like you'll be more serious about your future life that way.
What?
Could it be because it will make people be very serious about their spiritual life so that if you try to do it, that's it.
Of course, they're trying to scare you. Yeah. One time there was a boy, and he was talking to a minister, and the minister was trying to, convince him to become, a believer. So he said that if you don't become a believer, a Christian, then you'll go to hell. And the boy said, well, my father didn't believe in God. He said, well, then he's in hell. And he said, and my brother, he doesn't believe in hell. He's going to hell. And my mom also, she doesn't believe in God. She's going to hell. He said, well, I may as well go to hell. My whole family's going to be there. Yeah, the more the merrier. But the good news is, even if you go to hell, Haribol, Jai Shishirada Nilamadava Ki Jai. Even if you go to hell, you can get out of hell. Because God is merciful. If God says, you go to hell, you'll never come out. You'll suffer forever. That means he's mean. He's vicious and mean. But he's not mean and vicious. He's merciful. So you always have a chance, because you have an eternal soul. You'll never die, really. Your body will die, but not your soul. And there's always a chance of being forgiven, and always a chance of surrendering to the Lord, you see. So don't believe all these nonsense religions that have these false, let's say, scare tactics, They try and scare you, One time, there was this preacher speaking to coal miners, and he was describing hell to them. So he said, hell is a place that's very dark. So they were listening. And in hell, he said, the air in hell has all this black dust in it. And then he said, and when you go to hell, it's hard to breathe. Well, these are coal miners, right? So they didn't say anything, right? Because they live in hell. If they go to the coal mine, that's a description of it, right? So the preacher didn't, he saw that they were not being, scared by it because they're going to hell every day when they go into the coal mine. So then he was trying to think, what can I say to scare these guys? And he said, and in hell, there's no newspapers. And everyone said, no newspapers? See, because, they like to read the newspapers. So then he got them scared. So we have to be serious about life. And that's why it says here, that there are 6 principles of surrender. Number 1 is anukulya sankalpa, to desire only in accordance with the desire of God. Whatever God wants, that's what we should want also. And that's what we should do to please God. Number 2, reject what is not in favor of devotion. So we should never engage in non-devotional activities because God would not be pleased with that. Number 3, we should have the faith that God will surely protect us. Well, yeah, because he promises that. Konteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranasiti. Declared boldly, Arjuna, that my devotee will never perish. Number 4, to maintain an attitude of gratitude toward God. Of course, if you are a servant of God, a lover of God, you get liberated forever, right? So we should have gratitude that we're going to be liberated forever. And then to see everything we possess as belonging to God. Well, that's normal. Everything we have, everything we see in this world, it all belongs to God. He's the real proprietor. And number 6, to give up the pride of having surrendered. That's very interesting. Because if you're going to become a devotee, you have to surrender, but you shouldn't be proud of it. You should be humble. Because if you become proud, then that destroys the whole purpose of being surrendered to the Lord. Right? Being proud is actually a false thing. We should be always meek and humble in devotional service. Right? Okay. Any questions?
Maharaj?
Yes.
Another thing, you are publicly saying about the Quran and Bible.
Yes.
Doesn't it scare you? Some Christian or Muslim people will hear you and then will challenge you or threaten you or something like that.
Me?
Huh?
For what I say?
Huh?
No. They can challenge me, but I can show them. I said, look, here it is in your Bible. It says you go to hell, and you just looked it up on the internet. You can never come back, but it's not true. See? So, yeah. One time I was with a Muslim guy here in the temple, and he said, so you worshiping cows? I said, no. He said, but you got a cow on your altar. I said, yeah, because we love cows. We don't eat them like you. I said, let me ask you a question. When you go to the toilet, do you take the Quran with you? He said, Allah, what are you saying? I said, when you go to the toilet, do you take the Quran with you? He said, no, of course not. I said, but the Quran is just paper, glue, and ink. It's a material thing. He said, no, it's because the Quran is the word of God. It's a holy thing. I said, now you understand why we have deities. You see, you think, and rightfully, that the Quran is a sacred thing, although it's made of paper and glue and ink, right? And we think that our deity is actually a true representative of God. But it might be made out of marble, or it may be made out of whatever. But we worship the deity, and we don't treat it like an idol. We feed the deity 5 times a day. We bathe the deity and change the clothing twice a day. And we chant for the deity and so forth. So it's not a dead thing. It's a living thing. So, he was saying, was just thinking, what am I going to do now to talk to this guy? So I told him, I said, look, we understand that just like you understand that the Quran is a sacred thing. That's why you don't take it into the toilet. And we understand that the deities are sacred. Although they're made with matter, but they've been sanctified by the Pran ceremony. And I explained to him what the Pran ceremony is. And we have invited Krishna to come into the form that's made according to the description of Krishna in the Shastra. It's not imagined. See, the Muslims, they forbid making any image of God, whether it's with a drawing or with let's say with plaster of Paris or something. They forbid it. Why? Because they don't have knowledge of the form of God. But we do. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's exhaustive knowledge of who God is, what he looks like, what he likes to eat, etc. So we have information in the Bhagavad Gita that the Muslims don't have. And when you speak to an intelligent Muslim, I was speaking to one intelligent Muslim, and I said, do you think God has a form? He said, I don't know. I said, why? Why you don't know? He said, because that information is not in the Quran. Now, because he was an educated Muslim, he told the truth. I said, do you think God has a form? He said, I don't know. I said, why not? So because we don't have that information in the Quran. But we have that information in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore what? Therefore that they should accept what we're talking about. When we're talking about God and we know what form he has, we know what he likes, what he doesn't like, they don't have that information in the Quran. So the solution, not the solution, the takeaway is that they should accept what's in Bhagavad Gita because they don't have that information in the Quran. Okay, so I think we will stop right there, or unless there are other questions or comments. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Pancham Jai Shri Prabhupada. Actually, my question is relevant for the chanting. Sometimes there's a conflict arises to do in the chantings. Sometimes
There's what? There's what?
conflict, some problems arises.
Conflict?
Yeah.
When you're chanting?
No, means sometimes, some days, some stupid conversation, or we engage in another activities or hard work or anything, we are tired, then
Who's
chanting.
they? Which they? What's their names? What's the names of they?
Some days, sometimes we are not, we are in basic stage. We are doing the chanting. Chanting is not siddha for, is not siddha for us. So we are not as desperate or as lovable.
Who
for
is
the-
they, though? You keep saying they. Who is they?
Some bad day.
What?
Some bad
Oh,
day.
you're saying a bad day.
Yeah, we didn't wake
I thought
early
you were
or-
saying they. You said they or you said bad day?
I said day. After asking, I said bad day.
First you said they, and then now you're saying bad day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So conflict.
That's clever. That's
Yeah.
very clever. All right, go ahead. What's the
Yeah,
question?
Conflict arises on that day. So So how we can resolve that conflicts? It can't be permanent. We do chanting every day, good chanting, good day, and all things is properly good. Why conflict arises and how to solve it? How to resolve that?
Okay, how to chant good rounds every day, right? There's no they, it's every day, right? Well, that's simple. Don't come to the temple. Stay at home and chant all day long. Nobody will bother you. You know, and after you chant all your rounds, then you can come to the temple.
At home, I can't do the japa. I
What?
can do japa only in temple.
Who said that?
My personal experience.
Which demon told you that?
I am saying from my experience, I am able to do the japa at temple. It's good. It's to do the round complete.
But
it's
your
easy
house,
to complete the round.
your house or your apartment should be a temple also, right? You should have pictures of Krishna in your house, or a little deity of, what's the names? Huh? Gaur Nitai, yeah. So you chant in front of Gaur Nitai. Gaur is Lord Chaitanya, right? Nitai is Nityananda. That means they're Krishna and Balaram. So you chant in front of Gaur Nitai. Right. You don't have to come to the temple to chant your rounds. But after having chanted your rounds, you can come to the temple and not be disturbed by what people say or think. Right? Okay? Haribol. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj.
Yes.
Is there a reason why Krishna created, Treta Yuga, Satyug, Dwapar, and then Kali Yuga, where the ignorance is increasing and people are going from 75 to 50 to 25? Why is it? Why he created that?
No, you should say, why did Krishna create good things in Kali Yuga? You say, there are good things in Kali Yuga also. Like, for example, in Kali Yuga, if you think about doing something bad, you don't get any karma. You have to do it. But in Satya Yuga, if you thought of doing something bad, immediately you got the karma. So there's many good things in Kali Yuga also. In Kali Yuga, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, you can go back to Godhead. In previous times, you had to do tremendous tapasya to go back to Godhead. But now, all you have to do is eat prasadam and chant Hare Krishna, and you go back to Godhead. So you see, there are many advantages in Kali Yuga. He made it much easier. And who made it? Who was the he that made it much easier? Lord Chaitanya. He made it very easy. You just chant Hare Krishna. You don't have to know mantra, this mantra, that mantra, there's only one mantra, Hare Krishna. Only one God, Krishna, right? And only one, activity, devotional service. So everything is easy. It's been made easy in Kali Yuga. Because Kali Yuga is such a bad time, therefore Krishna made everything easy in Kali Yuga. So we should take advantage of that. You know how long Brahma had to meditate before he could see Krishna? You know how long? 311 trillion 400 billion years. He had to meditate that period of time before he was able to see Krishna. Now, we only live 100 years at the most, not even that, right? And if you just chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, associate with devotees, and always engage in devotional service, you go back to Godhead. So it's never been this easy before, never. So you should take advantage of it. Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, then we will adjourn right now at 8:45 so that we can wake up early tomorrow. Yes.
In Valmiki Muni, so earlier he was Dasu Ratnakara. So he chanted Rama's name, and with that only he wrote Ramayana, right? So that time also the power of Nama is always there.
The power of?
Power of Nama, like Krishna's name, Rama's name.
Yeah.
So it is always there, not only in Kali Yuga. It was always like a Satya Yuga, Dwapara, Treta. Every time it was always there. Right?
Yes.
So only then, like the emphasis is on like the Kali Yuga, that when you do Harinam is when it is easier. Why is that? But like it is always easy, right, with Nama?
Are you saying, is the holy name Hare Krishna in the first time, in other words, Satya Yuga? Yes, the holy name has always been there, but it wasn't emphasized. So in Satya Yuga, you had to do meditation, and Dwapara Yuga, you had to do opulent deity worship, and then Treta Yuga, you had to do big yajnas, right? And in Kali Yuga, you have to do Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. All right. So there's different Yuga Dharmas. Yuga Dharmas. So in this age, it's Harinam Sankirtan. The other ages, there's meditation or this thing or that thing. So it's just a question of the time. Now, of course, Kali Yuga is the worst time to be in the material world, but actually, there are advantages in Kali Yuga. But let's say you're a preacher. Well, Kali Yuga is a great time to be a preacher because almost everyone you meet is a nonsense person. And you can try and convince them to be a devotee. So in the first time, almost everyone was a devotee, you see. So you wouldn't be able to try and convince them to be a devotee. They were already devotees. Right? But in Kali Yuga, hardly 25%. It's less than that now, anyway. They're not devotees. So that means it's a great time to be a preacher. You can preach the rest of your life. So there are advantages in Kali Yuga. Also, previously, if you thought of doing something evil, you would immediately get the karma. But in Kali Yuga, you have to actually perform the evil thought or the evil sin to get the sinful reaction. So there's all kinds of special, what you call dispensations in Kali Yuga, because it's such a difficult time to live in the material world. Therefore, we should take advantage of them. See? The devotee is always favored by Krishna. So we should always be chanting Hare Krishna, always praying to the Lord, and engaging in devotional service, so we will not be contaminated by Kali Yuga. Right? Otherwise, we can get easily contaminated and go off on a tangent, and then have to stay in the whole cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, many, many more millions of years. You don't want to do that. You have a human body now. You should use the human body for what it's meant. The human body is meant to understand your relationship with Krishna and go back to Godhead. So we should take that advantage. Okay, well, we will stop right now, I guess, unless there's another hot question. But if there's no more questions, then we'll say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.